we find ourselves in this situation where both sides are literally siding with enemies of America rather than the opposition party within the country. Fox News literally uses Russian talking points. I mean, Tucker Carlson went over there and did the whole dog and pony show, backing up Putin, basically. And on the left, you see them marching for Hamas, a terrorist organization. This is a terrible place to be, and it can happen here.
That was Bill Maher speaking to Fareed Zakaria on CNN and equating the right-wing support of Vladimir Putin to left-wing, pro-peace, pro-Palestinian protesters on college campuses who we recently learned are heavily funded by a Jewish family, by the way. Now that's a story that we'll cover in detail tomorrow. But during this interview, Bill Maher also attempted and failed to prove that he isn't a massive hypocrite for smearing these student protesters. Let's take a look.
I heard a couple of people say, or maybe they wrote it online, that, well, I'm a hypocrite because you were for the demonstrators in 1968 or whatever it was when they were demonstrating against the Vietnam War. Yeah, that was very different. First of all, the students weren't against their own. These students were threatening other students. That didn't happen in the Vietnam War. And being against the Vietnam War made sense. It was a war that we probably should not have been in.
But let me ask you.
This is demonstrating and protesting for a terrorist group.
You know, they could be demonstrating and protesting for a ceasefire and to end the bloodshed in Gaza, where 36,000 people have been slaughtered by the IDF. But no, you can't protest what Israel is doing. That, by definition, according to Bill Maher, means that you support Hamas.
Yeah.
Complete lie, by the way.
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you. On this show, we try hard not to use words like racist unless they're really deserved, because sometimes it gets thrown around so much that it loses meaning. Like a great example is anti-Semitism. It gets thrown around so much for any slight critique of Israel that it's lost all meaning now, right? But Bill Maher deserves it. He's clearly a racist. When you do a protest for Palestinians, he says, oh, they're supporting terrorists. They're supporting Hamas. He thinks if you're supporting Palestinians, you must be supporting terrorists. That is literally racist. So he's a disgusting human being. So I've never seen him talk about Muslims without having scorn and derision, like just oozing from every fiber of his being. He hates Muslims so much, he can't contain himself. So no, the Vietnam War protests were just like this once. He's like, well, that was for a good cause, like Vietnam was the wrong war.
But I agreed with that cause.
Yeah, I agreed with that cause. I didn't want to kill random Vietnamese people, but Israel just slaughtered 36,000 people, at a bare minimum 25,000 women and children. But I agree with slaughtering them. I mean, are they even really people? They're all terrorists. So,
by the way, over the weekend, a literal Holocaust survivor, went on Fareed Zakaria's show and called what Israel is doing in Gaza a genocide.
Yeah, I guarantee you,
Is he a Hamas supporter? Bill Maher, you want to call the Holocaust survivor a Hamas supporter?
Don't encourage him. I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will.
Jesus.
Okay, Bill Maher is disgusting. So he sees peace protesters. He's like, oh, does it really count? It's just Palestinian lives. You know how violent Muslims are. Let's just kill them because they're so violent. We have to murder 30 times what Hamas murdered. 30 times Hamas. He's like, but they should be murdered more. You see how I'm the good one. Oh, these students, they don't understand anything. I'm so smart. I know Muslims are useless and they should be murdered by Israel ad nauseum and America. Of course. They're all dirty, violent savages. You see how much I know, and those students who care about peace, they don't know anything. You can F all the way off, Bill Maher. You're one of the worst people in American media. And the funny thing is that smug prick thinks he's such a radical and a revolutionary. I'm gonna say it even though it's
no, people don't want me to say it. Israel is right. Oh, you idiot. Everyone on TV says that. You're saying the most standard trite propaganda of all time. You serve the establishment like a little puppy dog. And he's always like barking like, I love Biden, I love Biden. Biden taking money from donors is great. By the way, he gave Biden $1 million. He's like, hey, make sure that you serve me and Israel, Biden, okay? So he's one of the corrupt, he's one of the disgusting people in the establishment who's now dares to criticize the most decent people in America, students who aren't Palestinian or Muslim, a lot of whom are Jewish, saying, please stop killing the Palestinians. They're the best people in America. Bill Maher's the worst, among the worst people in America.
So there were other parts of the interview worth getting into. For instance, Maher responded to accusations that he himself has changed, making him not so friendly to the left or the Democratic Party. Let's hear what he had to say about that.
People who say to me, and there are many who say, I loved Bill Maher, but he has matured too much. He's become cranky. He's become crotchety. He's become one of those old guys who says,
really?
The kids are crazy. It was better in my day. What do you say to them?
They're wrong. I mean, they're wrong, and the kids are crazy. It's interesting. They have this idea, the younger generation, maybe every generation does, that just because something is new makes it better. And that's not true. New is not synonymous with better.
But you're sounding like an old-fashioned conservative.
Okay.
Look, in this small portion of the interview, he makes half a point that I kind of agree with, right? I do think to some extent on some cultural issues, the left has gone too far, and I've talked about those issues on the show. But Bill Maher is a jerk. He's been a jerk for a long, long time, and he seems to get a lot of pleasure by crapping all over young people on the left who dream of a better future for this country, not just for themselves, but for everyone. Right? And so I'm curious what you thought about that portion of the interview, because again, I'm sympathetic to the notion that on some issues, the party that resonates with you the most could go a little too far on certain policies.
Yeah, so I agree with you completely. He's half right. Why is he half right? I'll tell you both sides. So can any movement go too far? Well, of course you can go too far, right? And we've talked about several examples on the show, and we're an open-minded show that's always been against cancel culture. We're always for an open-minded conversation, including criticizing our own side. We criticize the Democratic Party 200 times more than Bill Maher does. Bill Maher is a Democratic puppy dog. He only criticizes progressives or people on the left or Bernie Sanders, etc. But he'll kiss Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden's ass till the cows come home. He'll lie for them. He'll do propaganda for them, etc. But he's not entirely wrong that some portions of the left, in my opinion, have gone too far. Like, an easy example, an extreme example is prison abolition, right? No, this is 1% of the population, not even, is in favor of prison abolition. Just because some person on the left said it doesn't mean that it represents all of the left.
No.
That is the correct part. Hold on.
Yeah.
But the incorrect part is, he says, this is all cancel culture and I'm against cancel culture. Are you? Because you advocated for arresting anyone who speaks out against Israel. You actually love cancel culture. You even want people arrested if they disagree with you. So now you just don't like cancel culture when it's issues you don't agree with, and if it hurts your bottom line because you were getting paid a lot of money to go appear at college campuses and now you're not. Oh, I'm sorry, is that gonna hurt your multi-million-dollar fortune?
Right.
So he doesn't care about cancel culture as long as you're canceling the people he disagrees with.
Right, and look, while there is a small group of people who advocate for idiotic things like prison abolition, and yes, I called it idiotic because that's exactly what it is. That hasn't actually been implemented, right? Prisons still exist, they have not been abolished. However, certain policies that have been implemented, like the way bail reform was implemented in states like New York, which takes away all discretion from the judges, has been disastrous and has allowed for repeat violent offenders to get let out after being booked again and again and again, and they keep committing violent crimes again and again and again. When you see a story in the news about people who were found to have dismembered body parts in their home, which they tried to dispose of by, flushing it down the toilet and all of that. And it was so bad that it clogged up the plumbing. And then you find out that these people were not held or detained until trial. Yeah, that's infuriating. So I understand what he means when it comes to those types of policies. But
can I just say something super obvious? I'm sorry to interrupt,
go
Anna.
ahead.
Every movement has a radical portion to it because it's a spectrum. So obviously some people are gonna be on a part of the spectrum that not everybody agrees with. In fact, obviously some people will be in the radical part of the spectrum the great majority of that spectrum doesn't agree with. Wow, that's a big revelation.
Exactly.
By the way, it's a big revelation for the Bill Mahers of the world, but it's also a big revelation for the people who are on the radical end of the spectrum. They're like, what do you mean? Everyone has to agree with me, even if I'm on the 1% most radical part of the left.
Yeah, disagree with that.
No, by definition, we don't all have to agree with you. Only 1% agree with you.
Now, he did also defend his decision to criticize what he considers to be the extremes on both sides of the aisle. Let's hear what he has to say on that and if he has a point.
It's not like the left hasn't changed also. So I'm going to call it out wherever I see it. I mean, there are things that have to do with, gender and race and free speech and just ideas about, you can be healthy at any weight, and gender is always a social construct, and maybe we should give communism another try, and maybe we should get rid of capitalism and the border patrol, and let's tear down statues of Lincoln and get rid of the police. Just, no, it's not that I've gotten old, it's that your ideas are stupid.
So Cenk, it's not that he's gotten old, the ideas are stupid. He does list some of the issues that he has a problem with on the left. He talks about, gender ideology. He talks about healthy at any weight. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so look guys, just because you don't agree with someone on one issue and you think he's a terrible person, doesn't mean by definition everything he said, that the ideas that he's in favor of are all wrong by definition. You could be a viciously racist person and still have the right idea on tax policy, because those two things are disconnected. Then they're not always disconnected, but they often are, right? You could have the right idea on free trade versus fair trade and be a terrible person on other issues, right? So when I see Bill Maher criticizing Donald Trump or the right wing, I totally agree with him. Even when he criticizes some portion of the radical left, I agree with him. But that's not because I'm agreeing with Bill Maher. It's because we both happen to have the same position. I could turn it around and go, Bill Maher's agreeing with me, right? So, and don't be so, just because Bill Maher is a closed-minded bigot, you should not return the favor. You shouldn't be like, okay, I'm not listening to anything Bill Maher says anymore, and by definition, he's wrong about everything. No, he could accidentally be right about a lot of things. So you could, guys, we're all at TYT, we're for open hearts and open minds. Now, Bill Maher hates TYT. I presume he's never had any of us on. And by the way, I'll say this part. I never talk about anything that happens behind the scenes in this regard. But they have a policy that you have to kiss Bill Maher's ass to get on. That's a fact.
That's so pathetic.
It is pathetic.
That's so pathetic.
Oh, I believe in journalism. I mean, unless you're criticizing me, you have to kiss my ass. Otherwise, no one is allowed on unless they bow down to Bill Maher, because his ego is so unbelievably out of control, okay? And his mind is totally closed to all Palestinians, all Muslims. His mind is closed in every way. So yeah, he sounds like a guy who's saying, hey, the kids, get off my lawn. That doesn't mean that he can't be right about some things. So that's why we have open minds and we go, okay, that one makes sense, that one makes sense, the others don't make sense. Oh, and that one is just horrific. And that's what you should do with any person, whether it's Bill Maher or anyone else.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.